Welcome back. This section, following the revenue section that we just talked about, this one we're going to talk about your cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold or cost of sales, and you'll hear those, depending upon the type of business that you have. So if you, they're basically interchangeable, and cost of sales is usually used in companies that don't have a product but they sell a service. So example would be my company. The services I sell are like accounting services or like this program, for example. So it's a service, it's not actually a product. So with that said, we're going to jump into your cost of goods sold, and that's kind of what we're going to refer to it here. In this section is where you're going to track all of the materials or expenses related to the actual job that you're doing. So as an example, let's say that you are a framer. So anything that you purchase that's related to the materials for the job, such as your wood, the trusses, any of the wall framings, any of that type of stuff, the nails, the screws, anything pertaining to building that structure is going to go into your cost of goods sold. If you were a roofer, you would have your, the plywood. You would have the paper that goes underneath that. You would have the shingles. You would have the nails. You would have the trim that goes around the side of the house. All of those types of things are going to go into your cost of goods sold. One of the other things that I suggest for cost of goods sold is tracking the labor that you, basically it's an expense to the company, but you want to track it as a cost of goods, because otherwise, it's one of those that's a variable cost. So the cost of the labor is dependent upon how much work you do. So you don't really want to keep track of it within your admin costs, which is below the gross profit line, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But I suggest doing that because then you can get a true sense of what it actually costs you to build a structure, whether it's a house or, an apartment complex or even, a skyscraper for all that, So tracking the job labor is important because it allows you to really gain that understanding of how much it's actually costing you to build that structure. Helps you with, doing your pricing and making sure that when you're pricing out your work, that you are not pricing it out as a loss or breaking even, that you've got your costs up there high your income, your pricing up there high enough to, cover all of those expenses, because that's really the name of the game. You're not trying to just make bills and have a small profit. You want to have as much profit as possible. So when your labor is part of kind of what you're selling, because without that labor, you're not going to build a structure. So it is part of what it costs for you to do that for your customer. So that would be my suggestion. And again, just like your income, you can break it down into sections. So even if you wanted to track, the various wood or trusses, you can track those separately. You can track the type of labor. You can track, framers against supervisors. You can break it down any way that you want to. It just based on, your company and how you want to see that broken out, which helps you with your key performance indicators. Every company is going to be different just for that sake. That's an example of what I would add into your cost of goods sold. The other is the payroll taxes that are associated with those labor costs. So again, same principle. You want to have that as an added piece of what you're pricing out to make sure that you're covering all of those items that you're responsible for paying, so that you can get it put into your pricing so that you can capture that. So again, all of the labor costs, any of the job related costs, you want to have in that cost of goods sold. And in the cost of goods, again, I'll mention just quickly that your cost of goods is it's part of your expenses, but it's separated from your actual operating expenses. And you'll see that as we kind of move through why we do that, so that you can understand why it's important to have them separated. So this is your cost of goods sold section. Again, it's very basic, very simple to understand why it's separated out and where you can find it, which is directly below your total income and directly above your gross profit line, which is what we're going to discuss next. I'll see you then.